Welcome to today's deep dive. We'll be cracking open the I Ching today.
Oh, interesting.
It's this ancient Chinese text. And it's not really about fortune telling like people might think.
Right.
It's more like this guide to understanding like all the energies at play in the universe
Uh,
and how they impact us.
yeah. It's amazing how relevant it still is, even after all these years,
It's thousands of years, right?
Yeah, people have used it for like personal growth or, big decisions,
Mm.
you name it. It's really all about understanding how even our smallest actions can have these huge ripple effects.
Okay, so we're focusing in today on a specific hexagram called Da Xu, which translates to the taming power of the great.
Okay.
Or another translation is great accumulating.
Yep.
And it's about self-discipline and navigating obstacles and achieving success, but in a way that's different from like our usual go big or go home mentality.
Exactly. Da Xu is all about the power of these small but consistent efforts. So it's not about forcing some massive change overnight. It's more about cultivating greatness kind of gradually, like
Yeah.
slowly building a mountain out of grains of sand.
Yeah, I like that image. So where do we even begin to unpack something this complex?
Well, the visual representation of Da Xu is key,
Okay.
Imagine a mountain symbolizing like stillness and stability.
Well,
And it's positioned above heaven, which represents this like boundless power and potential.
I'm seeing the contrast there already. But how does that translate to real life? Like, is it saying we should just be passive?
Not really. The image is capturing the concept of small restraining the large.
Okay.
So think of it like a dam controlling a powerful river.
Right.
It's not about eliminating that power, but more like harnessing and directing it effectively, through focused action.
Okay, I'm starting to see the connection to self-discipline now.
Yeah.
So it's about choosing our actions carefully and consistently,
Exactly.
rather than just letting things flow chaotically.
Yes, and it's about recognizing that limitations can actually be our strengths. Yeah, just like that dam.
Yeah.
We can actually use them to channel energy in a way that creates something really impactful.
So instead of feeling overwhelmed by like a huge goal, we break it down into smaller, manageable steps,
Yeah,
kind of like a to-do list for achieving greatness.
that's a great way to put it.
Okay.
Yeah, Da Xu reminds us that even those seemingly insignificant daily actions, when they're done with intention and consistency, they can lead to extraordinary results over time.
Okay, this makes me think about yin and yang.
Okay.
Is that connection like too far off base?
No, not at all. Da Xu really embodies that balance between yin and yang beautifully.
Okay.
The mountain represents that receptive, grounding energy of yin,
Okay.
while heaven symbolizes that active, expansive force of yang.
So for those who might not be as familiar with the concept of yin and yang, could you give us like a really quick breakdown?
Sure. So imagine yin as like the stillness of the mountain,
Okay.
that potential energy waiting to be harnessed. And yang is that kind of dynamic energy of heaven, like the force that drives action.
Gotcha.
Da Xu suggests that true power comes from finding the balance between these two forces.
Oh, interesting.
So too much yang and you might burn out or act too impulsively, and too much yin and you might get stuck and not take action.
Right.
So it's about finding that sweet spot.
Okay. I can see how that resonates with this whole idea of self-discipline.
Right.
It's not about suppressing our desires or our energy,
Exactly.
but like channeling them in a way that leads to growth that's sustainable.
Yeah. It's about being deliberate and strategic with our actions. Choosing when to push forward and when to kind of cultivate stillness and reflection.
Right.
So Da Xu is encouraging us to find that rhythm.
So based on everything we've talked about so far, what's the overarching message that this hexagram is sending?
It's a message of hope and resilience. It's reassuring us that we can overcome those anxieties and troubles
Okay.
that are just inherent to life,
Right.
The key is to cultivate that self-restraint, make those small, consistent efforts, and trust that they'll lead to really significant outcomes.
It's like a pep talk from ancient China saying, hey, life's tough, but you've got this.
Exactly. And speaking of navigating, there's another interesting aspect of Da Xu.
Okay.
It speaks about favorable circumstances.
Ooh, okay. I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
What kind of favorable circumstances are we talking about?
Well, the text suggests a positive outlook in a lot of different areas,
Okay.
like travel or relationships or general affairs. Things seem to be lining up.
I like that.
Yeah,
It sounds like Da Xu is saying, hey, put in the work, stay focused, and good things are coming.
exactly. It's emphasizing that this path of self-discipline and gradual accumulation It doesn't just lead to personal growth,
Right.
but also to favorable conditions in the world around us.
All right, I'm feeling motivated.
Yeah.
But let's get down to specifics.
Hmm.
How does Da Xu guide us through those everyday challenges?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. Da Xu offers specific insights into each of those areas. But before we get into those, I want to take a quick break, and then we can jump into them in part 2.
Sounds good. We'll be right back after a short break to delve deeper into those practical applications of Da Xu.
Quick.
Okay, so we're back and ready to dive into how Da Xu can help us navigate those everyday challenges. Where do we begin?
Well, Da Xu, it's like this multi-layered cake of wisdom. Remember those individual lines within the hexagram?
Yeah.
They add even more nuance to this idea of self-restraint and patience, and those small efforts adding up to big gains.
Yeah, I'm curious about those. It's like each line is like a mini chapter within the larger story, right?
Mhm.
Which one jumps out at you as being particularly relevant to what we've been discussing?
Well, we were just talking about those favorable circumstances. So line 1 is a good place to start.
Okay.
It reads, beneficial to cross the Great River.
Ooh, that sounds adventurous.
Yeah.
What's the deeper meaning there?
It's a call to action. It's encouraging us to step outside our comfort zones and embrace personal growth, even if it means leaving behind what's familiar, the Great River. It symbolizes those challenges that we need to overcome to reach our full potential.
So it's like taking a leap of faith,
Yeah,
trusting that we'll find our way even when things feel uncertain.
exactly. And there's another interesting detail in this line.
Okay.
It suggests that it's beneficial to cross the river without relying on like the comforts of home.
Oh, interesting. So it's not just about taking the leap,
Yeah.
but doing it with a sense of independence and self-reliance.
Right.
Almost like venturing out into the world with only the essentials, trusting in our own abilities to navigate the unknown.
That's a great way to visualize it. It's about shedding those old habits or ways of thinking that might be holding us back
Okay.
and embracing the journey with that spirit of openness and adaptability.
All right, so we've got line 1 urging us to embrace challenges and venture into the unknown.
Yeah.
What about the other lines? Do they offer like different perspectives on this journey of great accumulating?
Absolutely. Each line provides its own unique angle on navigating life. It reads, a young pig grunting in distress, supreme good fortune.
Wait, a distressed piglet equals supreme good fortune. That seems a bit counterintuitive.
Yeah.
How does that even make sense?
It's a classic I Ching paradox. It pushes us to think beyond just the surface level.
Okay.
You know, the piglet, though it's struggling, it represents those early stages of development. So it's full of potential, but it's still learning and making noise along the way.
So it's not about avoiding challenges or pretending like everything's perfect.
Right.
It's more about accepting those struggles
Yeah.
as part of the growth process.
Precisely. The supreme good fortune. It comes from recognizing that these challenges are shaping us. They're pushing us to become stronger and more resilient. It's about trusting that even when things feel messy or uncomfortable, we're ultimately headed towards something greater.
That's a powerful reframing.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, it's okay to feel frustrated or lost sometimes. Those feelings are temporary.
Yeah.
They're actually guiding you towards your full potential.
Exactly. And there's another layer to this. The image of the young piglet. It also reminds us to be patient, both with ourselves and others. You know, growth takes time. It's not always a straight line.
It's a good reminder in a world that often values instant gratification and perfection.
Yeah.
Like true growth comes from embracing that messy, imperfect journey.
Couldn't agree more. And remember, these lines are meant to be interpreted metaphorically.
Right.
We're not literally looking for distressed piglets. It's about extracting those universal truths and applying them to our own lives.
Right. It's about taking the wisdom embedded in these symbolic images and using it to navigate our own unique paths. Okay. So we've got line 1 urging us to embrace challenges and step into the unknown. And now line 4 reminding us that struggles are a natural part of growth and ultimately lead to good fortune.
And it's this blend of pushing forward while also acknowledging that inherent messiness of growth that makes Da Xu so relevant to our modern lives. But there's even more to explore.
Okay.
How about we take a closer look at how this ancient wisdom applies to specific areas, like love, health, and work?
Yes. Let's get practical. I'm ready to see how Da Xu can help us tackle those real-life challenges. Okay, so we've explored like the symbolism and some key lines of Da Xu.
Yeah.
But how do we actually apply this ancient wisdom to our modern lives?
It kind of all boils down to a shift in perspective. You know, instead of viewing our lives as this series of sprints, Da Xu is inviting us to embrace the marathon.
Okay.
It's about cultivating that long-term vision, knowing that greatness, it's not built overnight.
So instead of getting caught up in those quick fixes or like instant gratification, we're focusing on sustainable growth.
Exactly. And Da Xu offers a roadmap for that.
Okay.
It reminds us that consistent, disciplined action is the key. It's about breaking down those big, overwhelming goals into smaller, manageable steps, like creating daily rituals or setting realistic milestones.
A lot of us, I think, struggle with self-discipline. Any tips from Da Xu on how to actually cultivate that?
Think back to that mountain imagery.
Okay.
It was formed over eons, particle by particle. Each small action, it seems insignificant on its own, but it contributes to this grand creation. It's not just about doing more, but doing things with intention and focus.
I'm picturing myself like moving those rocks one by one, knowing that eventually they'll form a mountain. It's a good reminder that even when we don't see immediate results, those consistent efforts are laying the foundation for something bigger.
Exactly. Da Xu encourages us to trust the process, to stay present with our actions, and to remember that even those small steps are moving us towards our goals.
What about those inevitable roadblocks and setbacks? Life rarely goes according to plan. How does Da Yu guide us through those challenging moments?
Remember that line about the distressed piglet?
Yeah.
It's a powerful reminder that struggle is like an inherent part of growth. Instead of viewing those challenges as failures, we can reframe them as opportunities for learning and resilience.
So those like piglet moments are actually pushing us towards supreme good fortune.
Exactly.
That's a comforting thought,
Right.
especially when things feel chaotic.
It's about having that long-term perspective, trusting that those challenges are temporary and ultimately shaping us into the people we're meant to become.
I'm also curious about the balance aspect of Da Xu. We talked about yin and yang earlier. How does that play out in our everyday lives?
It's about finding that sweet spot between action and rest, effort and surrender. Da Xu reminds us that sustainable progress. It's not about pushing ourselves to the limit all the time. It's about listening to our bodies and minds, knowing when to push forward and when to take a step back and recharge.
So self-care isn't just a luxury. It's essential for achieving those long-term goals.
Absolutely. It's about cultivating a holistic approach to life, recognizing that our physical, mental, and emotional well-being, they're all interconnected. Da Xu encourages us to find that balance that allows us to thrive.
As we wrap up this deep dive into Da Xu, what's like the one key takeaway you want listeners to remember?
I think it's this. Greatness is within everyone's reach. But it's not about these overnight transformations or grand gestures. It's about cultivating self-discipline, embracing challenges as opportunities for growth, and finding that sustainable rhythm that allows us to make consistent progress towards our goals.
The powerful message of hope and empowerment, reminding us that we have the ability to shape our own destinies, step by step, day by day.
And remember, Da Xu, it's just one piece of this vast wisdom contained within the I Ching. There's so much more to explore.
It's like we've opened a door to a whole new world of understanding. Listeners, we encourage you to keep diving deep, keep exploring, and see what insights you can uncover on your own journey of great accumulating. Until next time.